I am an expert in failing. The reason why I say this is that when you look at me, now I'm 50 plus, it's really an accumulation of a number of failures initially, whether it is about projects that I undertook, or people that I've hired, or initiatives that have been driving. Those initiatives were usually started with me being very, very clear about what I want to accomplish. But almost all of the time, I have to continuously be changing and doing course correction because some of the assumptions that I may have put are found when I'm doing the execution that is no longer valid. So I have to revisit, bump against the wall. I have to change direction. But the key in all of this, the key is to be clear about what you want to accomplish. Along the way, you can always make mistakes. You can always get people disappointing you. It doesn't matter. That is part and parcel of life. That is the journey that we all take in order for us to grow. In the process, we end up getting to know a little bit more about ourselves, better insight about the colleagues that we're working with, and also having a deeper understanding of the environment in which we're operating. So failure is key to helping us to be better people, is key to personal growth. So I come from the rural area called Tabase in Mteto. Both my parents were teachers. My father had a degree. My mother had a teacher's certificate. And they were very, very focused on helping others and also instilling in us the value of education. But my mother, given the fact that I am one of 10 children, so we've got a large family at home, and it was clear to me much earlier in life that if I was hoping for an inheritance, it's not going to be possible because I'm like number 10, I'm like number 6, So I had to find my way. And so my mother, given the size of our family, and the fact that she had such ambitions and such key goals for all of us, she felt that the family did not have enough to help us to achieve what we wanted to achieve. So she decided to go and start up a business. And I grew up in that environment, an environment where we used to, at about 4:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock, used to wake us up, have to go and get some fresh produce from the city. In Mteto, it's about 20 kilometers away. Get veggies and milk, and so that we can be able to sell fresh products to the consumers, to the customers. And waking up at such a time, clearly something that as a young kid is not something that you are excited about. And coming back from school, knowing that you are going to go behind the counter and serve customers and support the family. But when I look at all of that, I see now, given the leadership role that I have, I'm actually a morning person. That's what I've realized. And the amount of thinking that I'm doing between 4:30 and like 7 o'clock, and it helps me to be able to clarify a number of things before I start my day. So something that started as, I guess, a negative thing, it has helped me a lot with regards to the kind of role that I am playing right now in terms of my life. I also look at the work that we used to do to support or to serve the customers. And I look again as what is it that is common in terms of the things that I'm doing. I like roles where I can go in, change things to make things better for the customer. For example, I took the role at MTN, being very clear that cell phone companies in general are not famous for their customer service. And that was clear to me upfront. But that was the attraction. It was the attraction of taking a challenge and helping and galvanizing the rest of the company behind a goal which is how do we take this company and make it to be different and help it to differentiate itself through superior customer experience. 1 year into the job, when you look at the amount of the journey that we have traveled, how much the number of employees that we have are focusing on these very objectives. This is, to me, is something that makes me excited, because now it has moved from being just a one individual person thing. It's something that we collectively as a company are doing for others. That's about giving. But it all, for me, it all started standing behind that counter, having my mother making it clear to me that the people that you are serving, these are the people who are helping us to have this kind of life that we are having. And that, to me, is something, again, that continues to be the key focus and the objective and the goal of my life. When I was in grade 12, we, of course, as grade 12, we wrote the International Science Youth Olympiad, where we were writing, it's like a short exam on both life sciences, math, and physical science. And out of those exams that we were writing, I ended up being one of the top 10 students in South Africa. And through that, we had to go and represent South Africa in the UK, in line with many other students globally. One of the things that helped me a lot at varsity was I got associated with a company called Afrox. They gave me a bursary, a scholarship, and it was such an, for me, looking back when they gave me that scholarship at the end of the first semester in the first year, and when I told my parents that the university is giving us all of our money back, they can go and use it for other purposes. I've got this scholarship from Afrox, and they are going to be supporting me throughout the 4-year degree at university. And that was something. To me, that was the beginning of me starting to contribute to my family, because that was the much needed resource that they wanted. Of course, I went and joined Afrox because that was part of the commitment. I worked for Afrox for about 7 years. That's another thing. When I joined Afrox, I was one of the first. They never had a black engineer. And for them, it was very difficult. The culture, it was a culture that was never exposed. It was never designed to have a person like me. And it was a South Africa where you still had black people like me having to carry identity documents. I could not find accommodation in Johannesburg because I was not allowed to to rent an apartment in Johannesburg or in the city. So I had to face all of those things, but I must say that Afrox did a lot to help me. They helped me. One of the people that stood out for me was a gentleman by the name of Neil Greenfield, who is probably one of the brightest people I've ever met, very smart. Here is somebody that does not know me. He reaches out to me and say, would you mind to be part of my team? Here is somebody who is highly regarded within this company and is regarded as one of the top talents, and reaching out to somebody he does not know, somebody who's different from him, and bringing him in, understanding that this person is finding it a challenge to be in this environment. He made me feel at home. He created the space. He mentored me, he guided me, he challenged me, he stretched me. He was very, very tough. But at the same time, behind that toughness, you could see the love. You could see he was seeing a human being that he wanted to help that human being to be the best that human being can be. He's somebody that changed my life, because when I look now at my leadership, the things that are important to me when it comes to leadership, one of them is diversity and inclusion. Very important for me. It goes back to that time where this person did not even have there was nothing that was forcing him from bringing me in. He did. It's the same thing now that I do. I look for those people that are struggling. Maybe they are introverts. I find a way to draw them in. We happen now to be in an environment where blacks in many areas are in a majority, and other race groups are in a minority. I bring in. One of the things that I did when I was at Afrox was to enroll for an MBA, because I felt that I needed to move into management, and that helped me a lot. And some of the roles that I ended up taking was, for example, when I was in NAMPEC, I was part of a team that was responsible for implementing world-class manufacturing. And that was key, because at the time we just lifted sanctions in South Africa, and many companies in South Africa were facing international competition, and they were not used to that. And we had to, in the case of NAMPEC, help NAMPEC to be globally competitive. And we did that by bringing in the Japanese manufacturing techniques, things like just-in-time, total quality management, and productive maintenance, and all of those Japanese techniques, and we use those to help NAMPEC to be globally competitive. Through that work, I got noticed by IBM, and they reached out and asked me to come and join an IBM. And it was interesting, because honestly, I never saw myself as somebody who could be working in IT. I'm an engineer, mechanical engineer, going to work in IT. But they convinced me that they needed me. They needed people who have deep understanding of business, of industries. They said they had enough people who understand IT, but they lack people who can help them to connect with businesses. I worked for IBM. I ended up working for IBM for 12 years. As you can see, I am not someone who stay in companies for a short period of time. I don't job hop. And that's some of the problems that we typically find in the young people. They take a job for a year, 18 months, they want to move on to something else. I stay in jobs on average about three years. And in that time, you end up having a much deeper understanding of each and every one of the jobs that you have taken. And to me, that's probably the foundation that I needed in order for me to be able to do the kind of work that I do today. Because as I interact and engage with my leadership team, whether it is in finance or sales and marketing, or customer operations, it doesn't matter. I can tell you, nobody can bullshit me, because I have that deep, very deep understanding of each one of these areas, and that comes from taking the time to understand each and every one of the jobs that you have taken, that have been given to you. So I worked for IBM for 12 years, both here and abroad. And one of the failures that happened to me when I was in Paris, I was working there for 4 years. My first 2 months, in the second month that I was in the job, I was asked to make a presentation to delegates that were coming all over Europe, Middle East, and Africa. These were all colleagues. I made this presentation, and it was not just me, many other colleagues. And I was rated, of course, each one of those presentations, the delegates have to rate. I was rated the last. It was the poorest of all of the presentation. And of course, I had to be given this feedback. And I've just learned that I was the best in South Africa. I'm coming in this environment, I've come to be the worst. It was not the easiest of feedbacks, but they delivered that feedback in such a way that I should not look at it as a failure, but more as an opportunity for me to progress and move forward and improve myself. And they drove me hard. I said, no, we have to treat you like everybody else here. You cannot continue to be thinking that, I'm coming from South Africa, there was apartheid there. No, you are like everybody else. You have to step to the standard of everybody else. That, again, something that helped me as an individual to lift my game and to pick up my socks when things were tough, and make sure that I again continue to find a way to be a winner. So I spent my 4 years in Paris. It was at that time that the company, at the end of that, decided to send me to Yale University. They were the ones who nominated me for a program in Yale. And Yale, in that program, normally they get about 2,000 applications. It's a global program, and they pick and they choose only 15. And I'm happy to say that I managed to get to be one of those 15. And that experience changed me. That's when now, when you look at that Yale experience, find that they took leaders all over the world, and they were betting on those leaders. They felt that, they were in mid-career. They felt that these people may end up doing things in the future, and if we can influence them in a certain way, we can end up influencing the world. And the core message of that program is, you can do good business, whilst at the same time you can be able to do good. Do good business and do good. Said, in this world, we've got so many social challenges, and you can go as a business person, drive your profits, but you need to also find a way to address some of the social challenges in the environment that you're operating in. And coming back out of that, joining Microsoft, it was the best vehicle for me to actually practice this kind of thinking. And it was in that environment within Microsoft where, if you look at it, some of the work that we did, able to take unemployed graduates, over 10,000 of young people that were unemployed, having no future, training them and bringing them into the ecosystem of Microsoft, where now they are productive employees 10,000 of these. It's just one example of trying to connect the two things. Taking unemployed graduates and putting them into municipalities and helping those municipalities to be able to serve the communities. And most of the municipalities, they just do not have the skills. So we go train these young people, take them from the street, train them, put them in municipalities. These young people become the source of light in those municipalities, from the street to now everybody going to them, asking them questions about stuff. That shows the potential that is out there in this country. Also, it shows that as leaders, we always need to find opportunities to go out there and make a difference. There are many, many opportunities. We're operating in Africa. Challenges are plenty here. Pick your one thing. And what is that one thing where you can go and make a difference in this country? As a leader, there are many ways to lead, and I honestly cannot say and prescribe that there is any one way that is correct. What I've found for myself that works for me is for me to be Mteto. Just be authentic, just be me. What do I mean by that? If you can go through all of the companies that I've worked for, but you'll find that there are many things that are common, the things that I end up doing in those companies. The first one is have a very, very clear sense of purpose. What is it that we stand for as a team or as an organization? If I were to look, for example, at Microsoft globally has got its own mission statement. But we ask ourselves here in South Africa and say, what is it that we want to be known for as Microsoft in South Africa? And we said we want to be a company that is locally relevant. That means we are not blind to the things that are happening around us. We want to find ways and means of using the resources that we have, of course, to drive the mission or to drive the objective of the company, meaning to sell more and more of our products. But in the process, we want to make sure that we touch people's lives in a positive way. We make a difference. So we decided to focus on education. We also decided to focus on improving or addressing youth unemployment. That's why we ended up partnering. That's another important thing. These problems that are around us, they are so big that not one company can address them. So as a leader, one needs to know that you need to first surround yourself with people that can challenge you, that can support you. But at the same time, you also need to look beyond the boundaries of your organization. Who are the other entities, organizations that share similar kind of purpose and mission as I am? What is it that we can do to combine forces so that we can tackle the big challenges, the big issues that are facing us? And we found ourselves working with companies like Innovation Hub in South Africa, working with the Department of Trade and Industry, and working with a number of organizations. SALGA is one of those organizations, addressing the big problems that are facing our country. But it starts from a purpose. And then it goes to, when you've got this purpose, you've got, do you have the right team to address the challenges that are in front of you? Selecting that team is very important. And one of the things that for us, it makes sense is to look at the values. Any organization, most of organizations have got values, but in most organizations, those values remain the things that you see being hung on the wall and nobody is really living them. It starts then with the leadership, living those values. As you make decisions, are those decisions consistent with the values of the company or not? When you are doing your firing of people, are you going back to the values to inform you who should be here or who should not be here. When you are doing your interviews, you sit there doing interviews, each one of us we've got expectation. We need to also check, are the expectation of the candidate the same as ours? If there is an alignment, yes, then, and also an alignment of values, then we can bring the individual in. If there's not, they can be as brilliant, they can be as smart, but maybe they need to go and work for another company, not this one. So that is very important, because then you start to have a team that is cohesive, a team that is aligned, a team that is determined that it needs to accomplish its purpose. So this is what, if you were to look at almost all of the companies that I've worked for, this is what is consistent. The fact that we're driven by something much, much bigger than ourselves, much, much bigger than just the business itself. It will always touch and connect to the broader society. The same thing like we are trying to do here at MTN. MTN is such a great company that, in fact, I call it is a good company that can be great. We are currently operating in 22 countries. We can make this company, a company that operates in even more countries, that has got an impact to so many people. And look at it in Africa. We've got issues around education in Africa. We've got challenges around healthcare. We've got challenges around agriculture. In almost all of these countries where we are operating, we have got coverage, almost 100% coverage. And most of the citizens in those countries are they've got a device in their hands, some of them more than one device. A combination of those two things can be a transformational. We can be leveraging the coverage and also we can be leveraging the devices to drive and improve the education, or literacy, and eliminate illiteracy on the continent. We can be improving things like healthcare on the continent. And these are the things that we now, as MTN, we are focusing on. We're focusing on making money, but at the same time, we're focusing on how do we make a difference in the areas where we are operating. And that is very key. So as MTN, our starting point, that's another important thing about leadership. You need to be brutally honest with yourself, You need to understand, be honest about your current reality. You can be also clear about where you are going, but if you are not honest about where you are not going to be able to achieve much. So we took stock and we asked ourselves, where are we? And we found that they are really in the two areas, as MTN South Africa, there are two areas where we need to improve the most. The first one is how we engage with our staff. Some of the people may know that some of our staff were on strike. And that to me is a reflection of leadership. Why would the staff choose to go and join a union when they are leaders? The reason why they're going there, they should be getting answers from within the company, and they are not. So in the last year, that's the first thing that we decided to focus on, improving how we engage with our employees. I'm focusing on this because you can dream about great customer service, but if your staff are not happy, you're not going to be getting that customer service. So we decided to focus on our employees first. The next thing is to look at our systems, how we're serving our customers. We say we want to deliver superior customer experience. That means in each and every touch point, we need to deliver that superior customer experience. When you're picking up the phone and phoning our call center, you need to get a different experience. And in order for us to get to that point, and I can tell you we are not yet there, this is a journey for us, we are currently looking at systems, asking ourselves, these systems and processes, how are they helping the customer? If the system or a procedure is not adding any value in improving customer experience, we take it away. As a practical example, we used to have an application that is got, if you want to be an MTN customer, you have to apply and fill in 15 pages document, 15 pages, asking the customer all sorts of things. We have reduced that to 1 page. That is very important. The amount of time that people spend with us applying, they've got many other things that they need to be going to do, reducing it to just 1 page. But also some of the information, you populate it, pre-populate it using technology, scanning the ID of a person and then pre-populating all of that information. We are in the technology business. We should be using it, and that's what we are doing, we're beginning to do. So I've been in a CEO role now for almost 10 years, both at Microsoft and now at MTN. And if I were to look back, in the early years, we used to have engagement sessions with the government, where we was to try to understand where government is going and see how we as business can be part of that journey. And those structures had been set up and welcoming. People were open to the ideas coming from business, and suddenly those were stopped. And it has been an unfortunate thing, because since then, business have been seen in a different light by government. In fact, has been seen more as an enemy, which is sad, because as I was saying, in life we've got so many, even in society in general, we've got so many challenges, and these challenges require different perspectives, and they require different players. We've got government, we've got labor, we've got business, we've got civil society. We need all of these players to be working together to try and make this country a world-class country. And if we now decide that we are not going to be working together, but we're going to be looking at each other with suspicion and in fact trying to avoid one another, that is such a sad state of affairs. It's not just the responsibility of government, it is also our responsibility. If we cannot do it, we have to go find a way of convincing people. That's why we were educated. We went to school to go find ways of solving problems. We're able to solve bigger problems than this kind of a problem, but we're not. So we need leadership that puts South Africa first. Unfortunately, if we are looking at our little businesses on their own and think that we're going to maximize profits while South Africa is dying, we are on a wrong path. Very soon, without a South Africa, we won't have business. Well, we need to change things around. We need to put South Africa first. What is it? If it means challenging, we need to challenge. We need to stand up. We need to make sure that our voices are heard, as long as the agenda is, let us make South Africa a great country.